I do maintain, here's something which I predict will happen. That's a prediction. I maintain that as AI becomes more powerful, then people will change their behaviors. And we will see all kinds of unprecedented things which are not happening right now.
So Ilya Sutskever, if you don't already know him, is basically one of the architects of deep learning. He's known primarily for his early work on AlexNet, the breakthrough neural network that pretty much kicked off the entire modern AI revolution. And of course, for his time at OpenAI, which he co-founded, where he helped build GPT-3 and GPT-4 as their chief AI scientist. But he left, and now he runs a secretive new startup called Safe Superintelligence. Their mission is exactly what the name says: build a superintelligence and somehow keep it safe. And in this brand new interview with Dwarkesh Patel, Ilya actually gives us rare insights into what they're working on. He also talks about the end of scaling, the missing piece of real generalization, how AGI could change human behavior, and when superintelligence might actually arrive. So yeah, this one's gonna be a doozy. Let's get into it. Alright, so one of the first things Ilya declares in this interview is that the age of scaling has basically sucked all the air out of the room. Everyone is just scaling bigger and bigger models, because that's the only thing they know for sure works. But no one really has any new ideas. According to him, what we actually need now is more research, not more compute. Check this out.
One consequence of the age of scaling is that there was this scaling sucked out all the air in the room.
Yeah.
And so, because scaling sucked out all the air in the room, everyone started to do the same thing. We got to the point where we are in a world where there are more companies than ideas by quite a bit. Actually, on that, there is this Silicon Valley saying that says that ideas are cheap, execution is everything. And people say that a lot.
Yeah.
And there is truth to that. But then I saw someone say on Twitter something like, if ideas are so cheap, how come no one's having any ideas? And I think it's true too. I think, like, if you think about a research progress in terms of bottlenecks, there are several bottlenecks. If you go back to one of them is ideas, and one of them is your ability to bring them to life, which might be compute, but also engineering.
So yeah, the bottleneck isn't GPUs anymore. The bottleneck is imagination. He even brings up AlexNet right after this, and talks about how it was created using only 2 GPUs, and how even the first transformers were only built on dozens of GPUs. Today, we have millions of GPUs that are radically more powerful and efficient. Yet, everyone's building the same LLMs and the same world models. This is part of the reason why Ilya went off to do his own thing. And to understand what he's really chasing at Safe Superintelligence, you first have to understand what actual AGI is. At least how Ilya defines it. Because that not only gives us clues into what SSI is working on, but it also explains why scaling the current systems alone won't get us there.
The term AGI, why does this term exist? It's a very particular term. Why does it exist? There's a reason. The reason that the term AGI exists is, in my opinion, not so much because it's like a very important essential descriptor of some end state of intelligence, but because it is a reaction to a different term that existed, and the term is narrow AI. If you go back to ancient history of game playing AI, of checkers AI, chess AI, computer games AI, everyone would say, look at this narrow intelligence. Sure, the chess AI can beat Kasparov, but it can't do anything else. It is so narrow. Artificial narrow intelligence. So in response, as a reaction to this, some people said, well, this is not good. It is so narrow. What we need is general AI. General AI, an AI that can just do all the things. The second, and that term just got a lot of traction.
Yeah.
The second thing that got a lot of traction is pre-training. specifically the recipe of pre-training. I think the way people do RL now is maybe is undoing the conceptual imprint of pre-training. But pre-training had the property. You do more pre-training and the model gets better at everything, more or less uniformly.
Yeah.
General AI. Pre-training gives AGI. But the thing that happened with AGI and pre-training is that in some sense they overshot the target. Because if you think about the term AGI, you will realize, and especially in the context of pre-training, you will realize that a human being is not an AGI. Because a human being, yes, there is definitely a foundation of skills. A human being lacks a huge amount of knowledge. Instead, we rely on continual learning. And so then when you think about, okay, so let's suppose that we achieve success and we produce some kind of safe superintelligence. The question is, but how do you define it? Where on the curve of continual learning is it going to be? I would produce like a super intelligent 15-year-old that's very eager to go, and you say, okay, they don't know very much at all. The great student, very eager. You go and be a programmer. You go and be a doctor. Go and learn. So you could imagine that the deployment itself will involve some kind of a learning trial and error period. It's a process, as opposed to you drop the finished thing.
So I think this is the perfect way to look at it. AGI isn't some finished product that can magically do every job out of the box. AGI is the learning ability itself, the ability to truly generalize like humans do. That is the missing piece he's trying to solve. So once you have that system, a system that can learn anything like a human, but obviously much faster since it's silicon, and also in parallel and instantaneously, well, what does that mean? Like, what happens? Dorkesh actually lays out two potential scenarios, one involving recursive self-improvement, and the other an intelligence explosion. And Ilya actually agrees that both are likely, and shares his own prediction for how a system like this might impact the world. It's pretty wild. Take a look.
It gets deployed into the world the same way a human laborer might join an organization.
Exactly.
And it seems like one of these two things might happen. Maybe neither of these happens. One, this super efficient learning algorithm becomes superhuman, becomes as good as you, and potentially even better at the task of ML research. And as a result, the algorithm itself becomes more and more superhuman. The other is, even if that doesn't happen, if you have a single model, this is explicitly your vision. If you have a single model or instances of a model which are deployed through the economy, doing different jobs, learning how to do those jobs, continually learning on the job, picking up all the skills that any human could pick up, but actually picking them all up at the same time and then amalgamating the learnings. You basically have a model which functionally becomes super intelligent, even without any sort of recursive self-improvement in software, right? Because you now have one model that can do every single job in the economy, and humans can't merge our minds in the same way. And so do you expect some sort of like intelligence explosion from broad deployment?
I think that it is likely that we will have rapid economic growth. I think the broad deployment, there are two arguments you could make, which are conflicting. One is that, look, once indeed you get to a point where you have an AI that can learn to do things quickly, and you have many of them, then there will be a strong force to deploy them in the economy, unless there will be some kind of a regulation that stops it, which, by the way, there might be. But I think the idea of very rapid economic growth for some time, I think it's very possible from broad deployment. Then the question is how rapid it's going to be. So I think this is hard to know, because on the one hand, you have this very efficient worker. On the other hand, the world is just really big, and there's a lot of stuff, and that stuff moves at a different speed. But then on the other hand, now the AI could
exactly.
So I think very rapid economic growth is possible. And we will see all kinds of things like different countries with different rules, and the ones which have the friendlier rules, the economic growth will be faster.
So I don't think it takes a genius to tell you that rapid economic growth might arise from broad deployment of a true AGI system, one that can learn basically anything just like a human can. But it does take a genius to build that system in the first place. And Ilya argues that even the researchers working on AGI right now don't fully comprehend what they're creating. He thinks we won't just see rapid growth, but dramatic shifts in human behavior that are completely unprecedented. He goes into several examples of what that might actually look like, how governments and companies will react, and later, he even gives a timeline for when we might start to see this.
And I maintain that I think most people who work on AI also can't imagine it, because it's too different from what people see on a day-to-day basis. I do maintain, here's something which I predict will happen. That's a prediction. I maintain that as AI becomes more powerful, then people will change their behaviors. And we will see all kinds of unprecedented things which are not happening right now. And I'll give some examples. I think for better or worse, the frontier companies will play a very important role in what happens, as will the government. And the kind of things that I think we'll see, which you see the beginnings of, companies that are fierce competitors starting to collaborate on AI safety. You may have seen OpenAI and Anthropic doing a first small step, but that did not exist. That's actually something which I predicted in one of my talks about 3 years ago, that such a thing will happen. I also maintain that as AI continues to become more powerful, more visibly powerful, there will also be a desire from governments and the public to do something. And I think that this is a very important force of showing the AI. That's number one. Number two, okay, so then the AI is being built. What needs to be done? So one thing that I maintain that will happen is that right now, people who are working on AI, I maintain that the AI doesn't feel powerful because of its mistakes. I do think that at some point the AI will start to feel powerful, actually. And I think when that happens, we will see a big change in the way all AI companies approach safety. They'll become much more paranoid. I think I say this as a prediction that we will see happen. We'll see if I'm right. But I think this is something that will happen because they will see the AI becoming more powerful. Everything that's happening right now, I maintain, is because people look at today's AI and it's hard to imagine the future AI. And there is a third thing which needs to happen. And I think this is and I'm talking about it in broader terms, not just from the perspective of SSI, because you asked me about our company. But the question is, okay, so then what should the companies aspire to build?
Yeah.
What should they aspire to build? And there has been one big idea that actually everyone has been locked into, which is the self-improving AI. And why did it happen? Because there is fewer ideas than companies. But I maintain that there is something that's better to build. And I think that everyone will actually want that. It's like the AI that's robustly aligned to care about sentient life specifically. I think in particular, there's a case to be made that it will be easier to build an AI that cares about sentient life than an AI that cares about human life alone, because the AI itself will be sentient. And if you think about things like mirror neurons and human empathy for animals, which is, you might argue it's not big enough, but it exists. I think it's an emergent property from the fact that we model others with the same circuit that we used to model ourselves, because that's the most efficient thing to do.
So yeah, things are gonna change fast. And Ilya briefly touched on the alignment problem there that still remains unsolved, and proposed a potential solution of teaching the AI to care about sentient life, not specifically human life, but just sentient life. Now, he admits that this probably isn't the best solution though, and that long term, it could end up being problematic. Ultimately, He believes the only way humanity could survive what's coming and retain agency in this world is by merging with the AI. Just take a look at this.
So one reason why I liked the AI that cares for sentient life,
Mm.
and we can debate on whether it's good or bad, but if the first N of these dramatic systems actually do care for, love humanity or something, care for sentient life, obviously this also needs to be achieved. This needs to be achieved. So if this is achieved by the first N of those systems, then I can see it go well, at least for quite some time. And then there is the question of what happens in the long run.
Yeah.
What happens in the long run? How do you achieve a long run equilibrium? And I think that there is an answer as well. And I don't like this answer, but it needs to be considered. In the long run, you might say, okay, so if you have a world where powerful AIs exist, in the short run, you could say, okay, you have universal high income. You have universal high income. And we're all doing well. But we know that, what do the Buddhists say? Change is the only constant. And so things change. And there is some kind of government, political structure thing, and it changes. Because these things have a shelf life. Some new government thing comes up and it functions, and then after some time, it stops functioning. That's something that we see happening all the time. And so I think that for the long run equilibrium, one approach, you could say, okay, so maybe every person will have an AI that will do their bidding. And that's good. And if that could be maintained indefinitely, that's true. But the downside with that is, okay, so then the AI goes and earns money for the person and, advocates for their needs in the political sphere. And maybe then writes a little report saying, okay, here's what I've done, here's the situation. And the person says, great, keep it up. But the person is no longer a participant. And then you can say that's a precarious place to be in. But, so I'm going to preface by saying, I don't like this solution, but it is a solution. And the solution is if people become part AI with some kind of Neuralink ++. Because what will happen as a result is that now the AI understands something and we understand it too. Because now the understanding is transmitted wholesale. So now if the AI is in some situation, now it's like you are involved in that situation yourself fully. And I think this is the answer to the equilibrium.
So yeah, that is both unsettling and kind of exciting. I mean, everyone's initial reaction to getting a brain implant is no way, not doing that. But if AGI is deployed into the economy, and if we have systems that can learn anything, work 24/7, never need sleep, never need a salary, then the only way to keep up might actually to become part of the system. Basically, if you can't beat them, join them. And if you're wondering when we might actually have to worry about this, here's Ilya's personal timeline.
Speaking of forecasts, what are your forecasts to this system you're describing, which can learn as well as a human, and subsequently, as a result, becomes superhuman?
I think 5 to 20.
5 to 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty much the essence of the interview. Ilya believes the era of scaling is over and the age of research is back. True AGI, to him, isn't something that already knows how to do every job. It's something that can learn to do any job, like a human, but just way faster. That's what he's trying to build at SSI. And he knows it will be so transformative that the only way we stay relevant may be to merge with it. So what do you guys think about all this? I saw mixed reactions to this interview from the community. Some people were annoyed he didn't really reveal anything concrete. But if you really pay attention, he does basically outline exactly what they're working on. And hopefully I captured that clearly in this breakdown. So thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of it. Please feel free to drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and as always, I'll be catching you guys in the next one.